Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley, and today I'm going to be doing another round of thriller book recommendations. I've done many different types of thriller book recommendation videos in the past, but I want to get on a cadence of just like general thriller book recommendations. So this is technically a part 2, I guess, in this new series of just general thriller book recommendations. So I will link my first thriller book recommendations video down below, as well as a couple other related thriller book recommendations. I've done them based off of trope, and I've done like thriller books you can't put down because they're so fast-paced and fun. So I'll just leave links to those down below. But this is going to be part 2 in this series now of just generally checking in on the thriller books I've read and which I would recommend to you guys. I'm not going to go in any particular order. I'm just going to jump on into this big pile and we'll get started. So the first one is a recent book I read, and that is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This was my first book from Alice Feeney, so I wasn't sure what to expect. I'm typically kind of hit or miss with domestic thrillers, and so I wasn't sure how I would feel about this one, but I ended up really loving it and gave it 5 stars and had a really good time with it. This is a story about this married couple who ends up winning this giveaway opportunity to go stay at this isolated remote cabin, and they've been having issues in their marriage, so it's sort of an opportunity for them to go and either resolve it or kind of break things off. It's like a turning point in their marriage. Once they arrive, things start to get kind of creepy. There's weird things going on. It also seems like they both have different types of secrets they're hiding from one another, and you get the vibe that they may not both make it out of this cabin alive. The story is also interspersed with letters that the wife wrote to the husband each year for their anniversary, and so you're watching the progression of the marriage and seeing what went wrong while you're also seeing this current moment and what's going on now. I just had so much fun with this. I love an isolated thriller. I love a snowy atmosphere. I love the tight close quarters and the creepy vibes. There's also like some slight, potentially, is it paranormal stuff going on, which I think is really fun. But overall, it's just really fast paced, really fun. I love having different perspectives. I love not knowing who to trust, and I was really impressed with this. So I will definitely be picking up more from Alice Feeney in the future. Next up, we have a unique book that caught my eye because it revolves around the COVID-19 pandemic, and that is 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. I actually have an entire reading vlog dedicated to reading this book, so if you want to hear my full thoughts and see my full experience, you can go check out that video. But the idea behind this book is that it follows this man and this woman who meet right before the pandemic really started. It's set in Ireland. They meet in this grocery store. They start to develop a relationship with one another, and then Ireland is going into very intense lockdown, and so they decide to move in together, which is crazy. They don't tell their family because they know it's crazy, but their relationship's just beginning. They're not going to be able to see each other in the lockdown, and so they decide, why don't we just give this like a 2-week trial of let's just spend all our time together and move in. So that's what happened 56 days ago is they met, and then 30 something days ago they decide to move in together, and the story jumps around in time back and forth in this window of 56 days. And then you also see what's going on in the present day, where the cops have arrived to this apartment complex because there is a dead body. And so you are reading the story, jumping around in time, seeing what happened when they first met, when they moved in together, over the course of that time, learning that they both have secrets and there's mysterious things going on with both of them, and trying to piece together who ends up dead at the end of this. Similar to Rock, Paper, Scissors, I love having multiple perspectives and not knowing who to trust when multiple people have secrets and you don't know who you should be siding with or who you can believe, and just uncovering the secrets in their past. This one was just a lot of fun. I know some people are hesitant to read this because it involves COVID-19 and people are wondering if it's maybe too soon or if it bogs the story down. And in my opinion, I did not think it bogged the story down. I did not get triggered by anything going on in this book, but I talk a lot more about that in my reading vlog, so you can go check that out to hear full thoughts, and just know everyone's different. So just because it didn't really affect me doesn't mean that it wouldn't affect you. Next up, I have The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. This is a story that is set in the New York literary world of publishing, and you follow this woman named Nella, who is the only black woman in her publishing house, and she feels very ostracized because of that. She tries to push a lot of diversity efforts, but they really don't go anywhere, and she's feeling kind of hopeless until one day another black woman gets hired named Hazel, and once Hazel arrives, Nella thinks she will have an ally, someone to help her push the diversity effort. She gets really excited about it, but it turns out that Hazel may not be coming with the best intentions. Nella starts getting letters on her desk threatening her to leave the publishing house that she thinks might be connected to Hazel's arrival. And it turns out there may be some really dark things going on with Hazel. This is definitely more of a slower paced literary psychological thriller, not a fast action paced twisty one. So just go in with those expectations if you're gonna pick this one up. But I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was done really well. I really enjoyed the twist at the end and where this book ended up going and the overall metaphor that was sort of built with that. This one definitely has similarities to When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So if you enjoyed that book, then I think you would enjoy this one as well, and I would highly recommend. Next up, we have a newer book, and that is For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. This story follows a teacher at a private academy who will do whatever it takes for his students' own good. While he has the best intentions, he doesn't always make the best choices. And then multiple people on the campus start dying. This is a story that follows multiple different perspectives. So you get Teddy's perspective, you get other teachers' perspectives, students' perspectives, and it's got a lot of fun, dark humor in it. It definitely has that classic Samantha Downing style to it. So if you like Samantha Downing's other stuff, then I really think you'll like this one as well. Her stuff is fun because sometimes you're let in on the secrets and what's going on, and you're watching just with the drama of trying to get others to catch up to find it, but then she also still incorporates all these fun twists and there's still surprises in it. So I really enjoyed this one. I really like the dark, dry humor behind it. So if that's your style too, then I think you should check it out. It's got a bit of a dark academia feel to it since it's set at a private academy. I don't know if it's my favorite of hers. The other book I've read from her is He Started It. I have not yet read My Lovely Wife. I think I like them both pretty equally. They were both pretty good to me. So I don't have a favorite yet, but once I complete her backlist, maybe then I'll know. Next up, another book with dark academia vibes. We have The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. You may know that I notoriously hate The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. That is a book everyone was losing their mind over, and it really just let me down, and I did not really like it. And so I was unsure how I would feel about his follow-up book, but I loved The Maidens. I thought it was so much fun, such a fast page turner. I liked the academia vibes to it, and I think I liked it so much because I went in with low expectations and I didn't take it too seriously. So this one is a story about this Greek mythology professor at this college who has these group of female students who are obsessed with him that they call the Maidens. Then when students start disappearing and ending up dead on the campus, it seems like he might be involved. And so one of the girls at the school ends up calling her aunt in, who basically raised her, and that's the perspective you're following throughout the story, is the aunt who is coming to investigate what's going on and see if she can help figure out if this professor's involved or what's going on to all these missing and dead students. I read this book all in like 2 sittings because it was just so fast paced and easy to fly through, and I really just had a good time with it. And then I started hearing other people's reviews, and a lot of people did not like it. They thought it was dumb or cheesy or would just talk it through, and it did sound a little dumb. So I think I enjoyed this one so much just because I didn't take it too seriously. So don't go into this expecting this like really intricate dark academia, vibey, twisty thriller. Just go in for a good time, and I think you'll have a good time with it. Next up, we have Bathhouse by PJ Vernon. This is a story about a man who goes to a bathhouse in an attempt to cheat on his partner, but he ends up barely escaping with his life. He gets in this really weird, aggressive encounter with this other man who, it seems like the man tries to kill him, and he barely escapes with his life, runs, flees, tries to pretend it didn't happen, but the problem seems to be following him because this guy and his problem does not go away, and he gets himself caught in this intricate web of lies with his partner. It is one of those just like race to the finish books where you cannot stop reading, you want to know what's going to happen, you want to see if he's going to be able to get away with it, or if it's going to end up crashing all on him and all his lies are going to be exposed and he's going to end up dead. I don't read a lot of thrillers like this, so I really enjoyed it with just the style of the book and the way it really just takes off, goes in this crazy direction, and it's just really like a race to the end to see what's going to happen. So I really enjoyed that. It's also interesting because you're put in this dilemma with the main character of whether you want him to get away with it and get away away with all his lies, or if you want him to kind of be exposed, he's a little bit unlikable because of that. So it puts you in an interesting kind of outside perspective of really just being there for the drama and seeing what's going to happen. So I really enjoyed this one. I think this might be PJ Vernon's first book. If not, it's the only one I've heard of from this author, but I'm definitely interested to check out other stuff from them in the future. Next up, we have one of my favorites of the year, and that is Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. This is a story about this woman who gets the chance to work for this really best-selling, mysterious author who writes under the pen name Maud Dixon. Nobody knows who Maud Dixon is beside like her literary agent. She is this mysterious force in the literary world who writes these amazing books, but just under this pen name, and otherwise she lives her life in complete privacy. And so this woman is really excited to get the opportunity to go work for her when she's down on her luck. She thinks this is going to be a really cool opportunity to get learnings from this really successful author, but it's also going to be a bit of a downer because she's not going to be able to tell anyone about it since it has to be so confidential. But either way, she's like, this is a win. But once she goes to work for Maud Dixon, she gets herself in quite a bit of trouble. And that's really all you need to know about this one. I don't think you should read the synopsis for this book. I think you should go in with the bare minimum amount of information because it is a little bit slower paced, and the synopsis gives a lot away about what happens in the story, and I think it's more fun to just not know and go on this wild ride with this character. Like I said, this is a slower book, especially like the first 80 pages or so, but I promise it is so worth it by the end. It is so twisty and fun. There are multiple twists, don't know where it's going at all, and it really is just such a crazy fun ride. Next up, we have a neighborhood rich people drama type thriller, and that is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. So if you didn't know, this is a retelling sort of Jane Eyre, which I have not read, but I'm familiar with the basic kind of story of it. And if you're familiar with the book, then the title kind of makes sense as to the connection there as well. But this story follows a woman who is this dog walker in this really rich town. She's also like stealing from all these rich people, so she is a little bit of a morally gray character, and she has a mysterious past that you don't really have pieced together, but she seems really secretive. She doesn't want anyone to know about what's going on in her life, and it seems like she's running away from her past. Then she ends up beginning a wild love affair with one of the men in the neighborhood. He ends up going out and buying dogs so that she'll walk his dog so they can build a relationship. But as she gets more involved with him and integrated in the community, she becomes haunted by the ghost of his last wife. She was just this legend. She was successful. She had this huge business. Everybody loved her. And this woman is not having an easy time integrating with the community because everyone just loved the first wife and is skeptical of her coming in. And then from there, things get crazy. This is a fun one if you like these sort of neighborhood suburban dramas. It's pretty fast paced. There's secrets and mysteries and unreliable people. You don't know who to trust in these situations, who's good, who's bad. So it's not one of my absolute favorite thrillers, but it is definitely a fun one if you're looking for a neighborhood suburban drama that you can fly through pretty quickly. And then the next book is one that I loved, but it seems like everybody else hated, and that is Vow You Break by Peter Swanson. I do not have the best history with Peter Swanson. I have not liked other books that I've read from him in the past, but this one I just really loved. So this is a story about this woman who on her bachelorette trip before she gets married ends up having a one-night stand with this man. Just a little fling before the ring, you know? And so she decides not to tell her soon-to-be husband about it, to just move on, forget about it, and now she feels like, okay, I'm ready to marry this guy. But then on their honeymoon trip, that guy she had an affair with on her bachelorette trip shows up, and he is convinced that they are meant to be together and that they have such a strong connection, and he really starts to cause her a lot of trouble because she's trying to hide this whole situation from her new husband. This honeymoon is also on this island, so it has an isolated atmosphere to it where she feels trapped in the situation. She gets herself into a place where she doesn't know who to trust. It's super fast-paced, super twisty, a little bit cheesy, but just a perfect amount of fun. And then the last couple that I have are more just honorable mentions, so I'll go through those rather quickly. The first one is The Push by Ashley Audrain. This is definitely more of a literary psychological suspense rather than a fast-paced thriller, so I just like to make that caveat when talking about this book. It's a story about a woman who has trouble connecting to her daughter, but then she has a son and she loves him. He's this angel boy, and she doesn't really understand why she can't have that same connection with her daughter. And then something happens that changes their whole lives. Something terrible, a tragic incident occurs that ends up really forcing the mother to take take a look at what's going on in her family. It also includes flashbacks of what happened with her mother and her grandmother. So it's a story about generational motherhood, and it paints a portrait of the not so rainbows and butterflies side of being a mother. And it's just really intricate and well written, and it really gets you thinking. The best part about this is just the suspense that's built up in the story that just keeps you flipping the pages. While it's not a super twisty story, it is just full of so much tension and suspense that you have to see what happens up until the very last page. Next up, we have The Plot by Jean Hanff-Korelitz. This is a story that I really enjoyed at the beginning, but then the end fell apart a little bit for me, and I was a little bit disappointed with it. So I do still really like it, but the ending just wasn't everything I was hoping for. This is a story about this washed up author who steals this amazing plot idea from a former student of his who has passed away. The story ends up blowing up, becomes super famous, but then he starts receiving threatening notes that someone knows that he stole that story and that he is a phony, and they're going to ruin his reputation. Also within this book, you get portions of the book that he wrote that has this amazing, crazy plot, and you try to piece together, like, why are you getting that story? How is that connected to what's going on? So it's definitely really interesting, and it's very, very well written, but the ending just let me down a little bit. But overall, I still think it's a pretty good thriller, and I do still recommend it. Next up is a book I really enjoyed and I gave 5 stars, but it's just a little bit older, so I feel like everyone's already read it at this point or watched the TV show adaptation of it that came out this past year on Netflix, and that is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. This is a story about this woman who ends up having this really nice run-in with this man at a bar. They share a kiss, they share a romantic evening, and then the next morning when she shows up for work, she realizes that he is her new boss and that he is also married. And so it becomes really awkward, but they try to kind of move past it, but there's still is this tension between them. And then she also ends up forming a friendship with his wife and getting a little bit too involved in their marriage. This book has a crazy ending. It was marketed when it first came out very heavily for being a book that will really surprise you, like you can never see the ending coming. And I read the book because I saw the show was coming out, so I did get to read the book first before the show, and I think that's the way to do it because that ending is super surprising and super fun, and it has just really cool elements to it that you don't see a lot in thrillers. And so I really enjoyed the book. I also really enjoyed the TV show adaptation that came out this year, so I would recommend doing both, but I would definitely say read the book before you watch the show because the best part about the book is the crazy surprise twist. And even after reading the book, I still really enjoyed watching the show, but I think if I would have watched the show, I would not have enjoyed reading the book as much. And then finally, another thriller that I really enjoyed, but I don't know if it's like a top tier favorite of mine, is Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane. This is a story about this woman, Lila, and her husband who moved to this idyllic college town. But then a series of young women go missing, and so does Lila's husband. But the problem is, Lila was the last person to see her husband's body, and now she doesn't know where he is. This book definitely has Samantha Downing vibes with these morally gray characters and not really knowing who to trust, and there being this element of dark humor. It's not quite up to par with Samantha Downing stuff, but it's pretty close. It's a lot of fun. So that is it for this edition of my latest thriller book recommendations. Quite a mix here, so I hope you're able to find something to add to your TBR. Really, I've just read a ton of great thrillers lately, and I was so excited to share these with you. You really can't go wrong with any of these in this stack. If you've read any of these books, comment down below and let me know what you think of them, or if you have any other great thriller book recommendations that you think I would enjoy or others who are watching this video would enjoy. Definitely leave those down below as well. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!